So ASCI, or the Advertising Standards Council of India, is the self-regulatory body of the Indian advertising industry. What we do is that we regulate advertising, which means that if you find any advertising that is misleading, offensive, harmful or unfair, we are here to help you. Now, you can complain against an ad that you find problematic by either going to the ASCI website, which is www.ascionline.in, or even just send us a WhatsApp, which is pretty easy for everyone to do. So you can just WhatsApp us at 77-100-12345. Now, besides receiving complaints from consumers or even the government sometimes, or organizations, consumer activists, ASCI also does a fairly extensive surveillance of ads using AI software. Sometimes it's our team. We receive feeds from over 500 television channels, over 150 print publications, and we have a team that is then kind of scrutinizing all of this to make sure that consumers are kept safe from problematic advertising in this country. Now, besides handling complaints, ASCI also supports responsible advertising by conducting training programs, by bringing out reports from time to time on key issues to do with advertising. ASCI also works a lot with government bodies, and by this I mean that one is that we are actually part of the Cable TV Network Act. Violating an ASCI code or a clause of ASCI means that you're also in violation of the Cable TV Act. So this is one way in which we work with the government. We also work closely with other government bodies and in the area of consumer protection, because that's really what ASCI's mandate is. One of the other things about ASCI is that we are part of an international alliance called the ICAS, or the International Council for Advertising Self-Regulation. Now, what this does is that this brings together all the different self-regulatory organizations that work in the field of advertising together, so we can discuss what some of the key issues are even at a global level, and understand what kind of regulations may be needed to protect consumers. Self-regulation essentially means that the advertising industry has willingly come together to create a set of rules, guidelines or guardrails around its own advertising. It establishes a code which lays down certain rules which the industry itself feels that it must follow in order to make advertising responsible and palatable to consumers. So it is really a system which is about setting your own house in order and making sure that the industry is kind of voluntarily agreeing to comply with certain rules and regulations. Now, this system also ensures that advertising that does not comply with these rules or guidelines is also called out and corrected in time, so that at the end of the day, consumers can trust advertising because it is honest. The way we do this is that we constitute an independent jury. Now, it's important to remember that this jury is facilitated by ASCI, but it acts independently. It has members both from the industry, but also several prominent non-industry members from the civil society. So we have doctors, lawyers, professors, consumer activists. And it's also important to remember that when a jury is constituted, the civil society members or the non-industry members sit in majority in hearing any ad or in hearing any case about an advertisement that has come in front of the jury. Self-regulation is needed because advertising is a very, very powerful influence on society. It shapes the way people think and behave, and it really impacts the way society itself evolves. Now, self-regulation essentially provides the first layer of protection to consumers. It complements the law and legal remedies that are also available to consumers. But for an ordinary consumer, perhaps going to courts or approaching the government becomes a little burdensome. Now, self-regulation is a body like ASCI, which is set up by the industry to monitor advertising. However, while we are set up by the industry, we operate independently. The ASCI jury, or the Consumer Complaints Council as it's called, comprises members of the industry, but in majority actually members of civil society, which would include doctors, lawyers, consumer activists. Now this jury, through the process that is laid down by ASCI, would review all the complaints that come before it and give its recommendations. In most cases, advertisers voluntarily comply. So in over 90% of the cases, they would either take down the ad or modify it to be in compliance with the recommendations given. Where we do not get voluntary compliance, we escalate these matters to the government, to different sector regulators, so that they can then process or investigate these issues in accordance with the law. Not at all. ASCI works within the legal framework of the country, and we work in a way that is complementary to the different laws that pertain to advertising. Now, ASCI also works closely on different projects and strategic issues with government, including the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, the Department of Consumer Affairs, the Food Standards and Safety Authority of India, Ministry of Ayush, Ministry of Education, and many other ministries. Now, we do this to basically work jointly on issues that concern consumer protection. ASCI is also called upon several times to provide its data and analysis on ads that we process, so whether they're misleading ads or harmful ads. And this data is also used a lot in parliament debates, in fact. Another important thing to remember is that the ASCI code is also appended to several statutory codes and guidelines. For example, we are part of the Cable TV Network Act, which in its advertising code says that all ASCI guidelines must be met by ads that are required to be broadcast. In addition to this, we are also appended to codes like the IRDA code, which is the Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, and also codes like the AIR, Prasar Bharati, and several others. So ASCI offers three key services to its stakeholders. First and foremost is a grievance mechanism where consumers, consumer organizations, the industry, and even the government can lodge their complaints against any advertising that they find objectionable with ASCI. And through our independent jury and the procedure that we've laid down, we try and resolve these complaints. That's one. The second thing that we offer is actually for advertisers or advertising agencies, where they can run their scripts or storyboards at a pre-production stage with us, and we have an expert panel that can raise any red flags that may violate the code, and then the advertiser or the agency can actually take care of that during the production process. The third thing that we do is we work collaboratively with the industry, with academia, to actually look at different issues that plague advertising or that are contentious in advertising, or really is something that the advertising industry looks to do in the future. And we work collaboratively with all our partners to create certain roadmaps in which advertisers and agencies can look to these roadmaps to actually create more responsible and progressive advertising in the future.